Here's 5 things you think are holding you back from actually making change in the gym or just in your overall healthy lifestyle that actually aren't. The first one is your carb count. It's very easy for people to say, I need to go low carb to make something happen. But often, high carbs are associated with many other things. A lot of times, if we're consuming a large amount of carbs, we're consuming foods that are also high in fat, are also not very nutrient dense overall, so they don't pack a very filling punch. We can eat a lot of them. And so it wasn't the fact that the carbs were bad for you, it was the fact that how much you decided to eat overall is what was creating the problem. That is why so many people suggest to actually eat a lot of protein and veggies, not because protein and fats overall are better for you, but because they're just going to be more filling type foods that you can utilize, which kind of points to one of our key proponents we talk about nutrition coaching is learning how to manage your fullness and understanding your hunger. The second one, and a pretty big one in the industry, is that you have to do HIIT to actually lose weight or drop body fat. HIIT, also known as high intensity interval training. Here's what happened and why it became big. Somebody a long time ago discovered that if you just worked really, really hard for a short amount of time, and then you rested for a short amount of time, and you did it over and over, you could burn a lot of calories. And they use this now concept that has been busted in research, that you will then burn calories for hours and hours and hours and hours. Here's what really happened. It's just a really efficient way to burn calories. You can burn a large amount of calories in a small amount of time and move on with your day. But it does come at a higher cost. It requires high intensities, it requires high power and high skill and high work efforts. And as a result, it's sometimes harder to recover from. And you can't work for as long. So if it becomes your main strategy, and that's all you ever do, you're gonna get burnt out sooner rather than later. And you typically do raise your risks of injury due to the protocols that are also associated with it. But it's not some magic protocol. It's just packing a higher calorie burn into a small amount of time. And here's what's interesting. If you just did an hour of walking, you might actually burn close to the same amount than that 15-minute HIIT workout without the cost or all the energy needed to make it happen. And so it's just simply something that is not going to guarantee you weight loss or fat loss overall. The third thing, and one that's a little bit more tricky, is the thought that you need to do a bunch of circuits, complexes, or complex movements to see more calorie burn, better outputs, or overall better results. And you simply don't. Because here's the thing, if you do something very complex, that's a lot of skills you have to build, which take time. Guess what? If you don't build those skills, you're now doing a very complex movement very poorly, and so you're not actually getting a lot of quality work in. You have to move it at lighter loads, you have to slow it down, and you raise the risk of things hurting simply because you're operating on skills and ranges that you don't have access to yet. And so if you choose complex things as your main goal when you're starting programs or when you're advancing programs, you're not going to get very far. It's just going to end up with a lot of frustration unless you're willing to put in all the extra work that it takes to get good at those movements. Here's what does work. Taking a very simple movement and doing it very, very efficiently and learning how to move it faster under heavier loads for more reps, for more time. Next thing you know, you are burning more overall on a day. The fourth thing, and a common misconception, you need to start running to lose weight. I'll say this, you run to get a better fitness system. You don't run to lose weight or drop body fat. Those things are just byproducts of it over time, but it takes a large amount of effort to make that happen. The cost usually outweighs that reward of fat loss or weight loss far too soon before you see the results. Running, much like the complex movements I mentioned before, is a complex movement that requires a lot of things. It also requires something very important, which is handling impact on the body. And so if your goal of losing weight is just to put more and more impact on a body that wasn't prepared for it, it's going to become more difficult. But it is something that's easy to access. You can walk outside and go for a run. You can't always do that with the gym. So if you do go into running, my suggestion is you pick way smaller volume jumps than you think. Do the couch to 5K, even that is too big of a jump for many people. So I would rather somebody do running for 10 minutes once a week and do it for 4 weeks straight until it feels easy and then moving forward with it. Or shifting to the strength side and getting such a great foundation that running feels like less of a big volume spike. The last thing, probably a common misconception about how I approach training, how the gym approaches training, is that although we can find the most effective and efficient path forward, does not mean it's the easiest, because you have to do one important thing. You have to show up. There is no way around the fact that showing up is difficult. It is uncomfortable. It is a change to your overall routine, and that is the biggest key for everybody. If you can get past the discomfort of just starting the new thing, you have many great things for you.